Today I have a very privileged occasion to see some trees I sold about 10 years or so ago, and we have customers at all different levels, and I'm very proud to say that I have here one of my old customers who is not just knowledgeable because he's got good taste, but he's capable. So if I can just ask my friend to introduce himself, how long you've been here, how long you've known me?
I would say I've been coming here for about 15 years, on and off. And usually this time of year, I get to the point where I need to start thinking about repotting in early spring, getting in soils and training up. And so the trip down today is essentially for that, to have a look at some new pots for some
old trees.
Old trees,
okay.
Yeah. So I usually come and grab Peter
okay.
as he's wandering around.
And you're doing exactly the right thing, because many people come to buy a pot and they try to visualize the pot and how it would fit the tree. I always remind people that buying a bonsai pot is like buying a pair of shoes or clothes. You have to actually try it on. If you don't try it, it won't work. It just does not work if you just say, I think that pot will fit this tree. It doesn't. So let's talk about these trees, because these trees, until you mentioned it, I had almost forgotten because so many years ago, are like old friends of mine. Let's begin with this juniper here. This is a classic Chinese juniper that I probably imported in the 1990s. And tell me something about this tree.
Yeah, so I brought this tree from you, I would say about 10 or so years ago. And at the time when I brought it, it was quite sparse with foliage. And over that period of time, it's just been trained, rewired and rewired and rewired. Today, I think.
Did you do the carving on this?
No, the carving was done by you.
Okay, all right.
But certainly the positioning of the branches, etc., was done by me.
Yes.
So
I like your style because you got a very distinctive style. I like the way you bring the branches downwards, you see. You bring them down and then form the pads rather than go straight out. So this is a very useful style for those of you who are watching this video to learn. See, bringing the branch down and forming the pad. This is a classic. Some of the Chinese would almost regard as a literati because it's got a tall trunk. Call it what you wish, but it's certainly got the literati character about it. Thin, slender trunk with very sinuous movement. And it's in this drum pot, like most literati should be. So we're going to find a new pot for this tree. Okay, let's put this aside. Now let's talk about another tree. All these trees are so interesting. I couldn't get over it. Now this tree, if you come close, Josh, we look at it. Now, at first glance, you would think that it's a 5-needle pine. It's not. And it's not a Scots pine because it's very compact. So what is it? It's a Bouverensis pine. And tell me the history about this.
So again, another tree I brought from the nursery, probably
untrained, was it?
It was it was semi-trained. I mean, there was a big, thick piece of wire going up just to create the.
The wire was on the trunk, is it?
The wire was on the trunk, and you can probably just see a little bit of.
Is it embedded or did you remove it?
No, I removed it.
You removed it, okay. So the marks are there.
And the branches were wayward. They were all over the place.
All right.
So of course.
So you've actually trained it from like a raw material.
I think you created the initial shape.
Yes. Okay.
And then everything else is what I've done. But I feel it quite heavily.
How many years ago was this? 8 or 10?
8 or 10.
8 or 10. Only 8 or 10. In 8 or 10 years, you've created this. Beautiful. And again, I like the style, bringing the branch down and sweeping it out. I love this way of training the branches. Beautiful, I must say. It's not a thing that I'm used to doing, but I like your style. I like the style very much. Coming down, see, every branch comes down and goes out. So that is classic, really beautiful. And I like the sweeping movement. So, and this sweeping branch here balances the tree. So it's like a dancer going on like that. You see that sort of effect, you know, that sort of style. So it's beautiful. Okay, so we're going to find a new pot for this. Okay, before I look at the other tree, you come here to find a new pot. So straight away, I could see this is a Japanese tokoname in-curve pot, not a drum pot, in-curve pot. But straight away, by looking at this tree, I have found this is a Japanese primitive, what they call nanban. And when you see the signature, that signature is worth hundreds of pounds. These pots are not made anymore. I bought it from Tokoname in 1993, and as you know, the Tokoname factories are now part of the Nagoya airport. So Tokoname factory does not exist anymore. So these pots are worth their weight in gold. Okay, so I could see straight away that this pot would be okay. At the moment it's potted a bit high because the pot has become small, but if we spread it out into this pot, it would fit. So I could more or less tell straight away that this is the pot for this tree. So if you look at it from sideways, this is what the tree would look in the spot, maybe a little more here to balance it. So that pot would be right. And because it's a circular pot, let's find slightly uneven side. So that is it. So this is the pot I would recommend for it, and I think you more or less agree that this would be the right pot. So when you repot, just tease the roots gently. Keep it the same height because this is a wider pot, so the mound won't be so noticeable, and that would be a good balance. Where you put the tree is quite critical because you don't want it to lean too much and yet provide the counterbalance for this tree. I like this little bit of gin, that's beautiful. It balances the tree again that way. So let's agree that this is a good pot for it. So one of my Bouverensis trees from the field. So if you want to buy Bouverensis, do come and buy from our field. So this is the one dealt with. Now let's look at other trees and other pot because we've got to find pots for the other ones too. Now let's look at this, very interesting. This is a Blaw's juniper. Now Blaw's is a much maligned species. Now if you can tell me the story of this tree, this is from here as well.
It was, yeah, again, probably 10 or so years ago. And originally the conversation we had when I brought this tree was that you were going to train it to represent the FOBS.
FOBS logo. Because the FOBS logo has a branch coming up. Can you see it goes up that way? It goes up that way and comes down.
Yeah.
And I think if we remove these lower branches, it would be a perfect FOBS logo. But you did not make it into a FOBS logo.
No, I decided against it.
Yeah, so it looks much better.
Yeah, and so it's grown extensively, and over the last few weeks I've just thinned it out and wired it.
Now this image is reminiscent of these tall Douglas firs or something, you know, big redwoods look like this. So it's a typical redwood image, redwood tree image. It is splendid, absolutely splendid. I'm glad to say that I've been part of the history of this tree, and it really makes my day when I see trees that have come from the nursery, but other people have taken the tree forward. I don't claim that these were my trees because it's no longer my tree. You have put your stamp on it and you have made it yours, which is so important. This is what the hobby is about, you know, putting your stamp on it, getting enjoyment from it. So this is a classic tree that a very good bonsai enthusiast has made. So let's find a new pot for this one. Now it's in a what we call a lotus pot. If it were in Japan, they would not hesitate to say that that is the right size pot. But I think it's a bit too shallow for that tree. And because the tree is such a powerful looking tree, that pot looks a bit weak for that tree. So, you know, the feeling of the tree has to be translated into the pot. So let me see how I can find another pot. So let me, come with me Josh, we look and see what choices we have. So these are all primitive pots that I bought in Japanese auctions years ago. These are all primitives. I'm always tempted to use the primitives because they really look nice, but I think a nice drum would also fit. So let's go that side and have a look at the drums. Let's try this.
Do you want this size as well, Peter?
No, this looks better.
This one?
Okay. All right, let's go and see.
That one?
No, bring it. All right. Right. Oh, I did remember. So, let us see what would be nice for this tree. This is another primitive. This is not a. These I commissioned from China. It's not a Japanese pot, but nevertheless, it's quite a nice pot. Let's see how it would look in this. Let's look at eye level again. See now that pot, because it's slightly bigger, it feels more comfortable.
It does.
Just a couple of inches makes the tree look comfortable. So that is a good choice. Huh? So that's not expensive. That pot is only 79. Now let's try the drum. I like the primitives because it's a very informal pot, and this has got no distinct name style, so that does well. Now the drum pot is more formal, but with a drum pot, let's see. That would also fit because the size is right. You see, the size looks comfortable. If I try the next size drum, this is a much bigger drum, but I think this may become too big for the tree. Mind you, it's about the same size as that Japanese primitive. How about that one?
That's nice.
That's not bad. That's quite nice.
That's comfortable as well.
The size is nice, isn't it? I think that looks very comfortable. So it's a choice between this or that. Hard choice, very hard choice. Look at that and look at this. I would like to advise you, because at the end of the day, choice in taste is a very personal thing. What you like may not be what anyone else likes. This pot is more informal.
Yeah.
It makes the tree look informal.
Yeah.
This makes it look more formal.
Yeah.
The choice is yours. It's a very difficult choice. Like 49-50, that sort of balance. I may say 50 and you say 49, but it could be the other way around. Don't ask me for my opinion because I don't want to influence you.
That's fine.
What an interesting choice. You want my honest opinion?
Yes, please.
This one. Because it's so nicely trained,
Yeah.
it needs a formal looking pot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the detail also
Yes.
is in better balance with the tree
Alright.
as well.
Okay?
Okay.
Alright, so that's number 2 solved. Okay, that's not too difficult. But of course, when you have so many pots, the choice is not that difficult. So that is number 2 done. And then the last one is getting back to this tree.
That's a really nice pot.
This has got a literati feel about it. If I may say so, you should probably open it up more so you see the trunk better. Which way do you use?
So this is the front. Like that. So you can see.
Oh. Don't you think it's hiding too much?
Possibly.
Although it is okay. What we call the dance of the 7 veils, you don't want to show everything.
It is all to be thinned and
Yeah.
trimmed and rewired.
Alright.
So it'll look sharp again.
Now this is an easy one. I think this one, we discarded this one. This would fit well in this. I know it's a bit high. No, I think just raise this a little bit. Can you get a good shot?
Sort of. Looks nice.
Yeah, I think the width complements the
Yeah, that's
the
right.
width of the tree.
Yeah, because these trees have outgrown that pot.
Yep.
Those pots may have been okay 6, 8, 10 years ago, but because the trees have grown much more, you need a slightly bigger pot. So that wasn't too difficult.
No.
You settle for that?
Yes, that was good.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
It's a beautiful
So
little
you
ribbon.
made my day bringing these trees back and to see it doing so well. It's like seeing children grow up. Okay. So,
Thank you very much.